This is my Oxalis Triangularis, otherwise known as the purple shamrock plant, and I don't mind boasting about how beautiful he is looking.
It's not always been that way though. I've had him over 3 years and it's only now that I've got the conditions right for him to finally flourish. If you have one yourself, then I'm sure you're familiar with how tricky these plants are to get right.
Leggy stems, floppy leaves, baldness, leaves going crispy, no flowers. It can be a right challenge, but I finally figured it out and I'm sharing it all in this video.
Now, there are 3 main challenges when it comes to this plant.
Challenge 1 is the toughest and it's all about stopping those long dangly stems getting too leggy. When they get too leggy, they start to droop and you end up with a plant that looks like he's been sat on.
Challenge 2 is to keep these leaves looking as fresh as a daisy. They are often quite short-lived if we get things wrong and we end up with a crispy brown mess.
Challenge 3 is linked to that, but more seasonal. How on earth do we stop them looking so terrible in winter?
This plant suffers the most serious case of seasonal affective disorder, and by mid-winter he often looks like he's been dragged through a hedge backwards, twice. The solution to this is my greatest trick that I can't wait to share with you. Before we go about conquering these 3 challenges, I think we should have a look at how he wants to grow and what we should expect from a healthy ox.
The key thing to know is that they don't grow from stems that shoot up from roots in the soil. Instead, the leaves shoot up from little brown bulbs. This fella is living in a clear plastic pot, and I did that so that we can see exactly what is happening below the surface. And right there, you can see an example of how the leaves shoot up from a bulb. Looks pretty neat, eh?
Now the happier ox is, the more bulbs he will grow in the soil and the more leaves will shoot up to say hello. This is when we end up with a nice bushy plant.
So keeping these temperamental little things happy is key to our success.
Another sign that we are getting things right is the endless little blue purpley flowers that shoot up alongside the leaves.
They're not majorly something to write home about, mainly because they're so short-lived, but get it right and we should see them all summer long. And finally, something that surprises a lot of folks is how they put themselves to bed at night. When the sun starts to go down, Ox puts his jammies on, brushes his teeth, shuts all his leaves and goes to bed. It's quite an amusing little trick that still catches me off guard on an evening.
Now that we know the ins and outs of ox, let's have a think about conquering challenge 1, stopping the leaves becoming so leggy.
I struggled with this year after year until I moved into this new house and I'm now finally seeing the results I want to see. It's all to do with one thing: light.
Now I know you hear it all the time in these plant care videos, give your plant bright indirect light, blah blah blah. I get bored saying it to be honest, but with ox there is a lot more to it.
Now in my old place, I knew I didn't have the best light for him. That's why I sat him right underneath a Sansi grow light, which would be perfect for 99.99% of plants, but not for ox.
The problem is that grow lights are a bit of a spotlight. They stay fixed and your plant is meant to just sit there lapping up the vitamin D. And most are fine with this, but this spotlight that doesn't move really doesn't work for ox.
Fast forward to present day and I've got him right here, slap bang in the middle of my conservatory on my dining table. This spot is ideal because on a rare sunny day here in Sheffield, the sun comes through on that side at about 11 AM and then follows its way around to the other side there until it disappears at about 8 PM. This is in high summer, by the way.
You might think that's great, over 8 hours of sun is perfect, and yeah, that is perfect, but it's not just about the quantity, it's about the quality.
For these leaves to be happy, they all need to be getting their fair share of the sun. If only half the plant is getting good light, then he'll end up pushing all his leaves in that direction and you'll have an awkward looking plant. Something that happens under a fixed grow light. So having the sun come in and shine on his left side and then go around to his right side is perfect. It's a near enough even balance that he's loving. And I know what you're thinking, what about his rear end, the part that isn't facing the windows? Isn't that going to suffer? Yes, and this is where the next crucial thing that you absolutely must do comes in. It's a massive pain in the bum, but for the best plant it's necessary. Come over every morning and rotate your little guy. It's honestly the secret to my success, and I do mean daily by the way. Unfortunately, if we leave it a week, you'll see your plant become a tangled mess as the leaves at the back grow longer stems to peer over and try and search for the light, and then when we rotate and leave it another week, the next batch of leaves grow leggy. Before long you've got a mess of tangled spaghetti. You might think I'm exaggerating, but these leaves really do react very fast to the light. So, without fail, I come across every morning and rotate 100 degrees.
But what if I don't have the luxury of a sun-baked conservatory, I hear you cry? And the truth is that if you can't offer your ox the light he really craves, then honestly you're going to kind of struggle to keep him in tip-top shape.
Find the brightest spot in your home and get into the habit of rotating him as much as you can. And that means ideally finding a spot where sunlight will bask on the leaves because they really do love the sun. Now before we get to challenge 2, let me encourage you to download my plant troubleshooting handbook.
It's jam-packed with all the common problems you might face with your plants and how to deal with them, and it's completely free. Check it out in the description.
So, challenge 2. Stopping those beautiful purple leaves becoming a crispy mess. It used to happen to mine all the time. One by one they go by the wayside until you end up with baldy in your living room.
There are two main reasons this happens, and we've already covered the first one. Light. Getting the light right, as we've discussed, will go a long way to keeping the leaves nice and lush.
But reason 2 is all to do with the bulbs. If the bulbs aren't happy, then we have no chance of the leaves looking perfect. This means our watering needs to be on point.
I will admit that getting the watering right for ox is a bit of a tricky conundrum, but with the right knowledge and tools you'll be a pro.
Now I reckon Ox should have been christened Goldilocks because a fussy so-and-so he most certainly is. He wants his soil to be just right, not too wet and not too dry. If it's either of those, then the bulbs start to suffer. Too wet and those delicate little bulbs turn to mush and all the shoots coming from it will perish alongside it. Too dry and those delicate petioles that link the leaf petals to the bulb start to wilt, and once an ox starts to wilt we're in trouble.
Most plants like peace lily or calathea tend to bounce back pretty handily from being thirsty, don't they? But this isn't really the case with ox. He seems to carry the scars forever.
So how do we go about watering then? First, your guy should be living in a decent sized pot. Those bulbs need a decent amount of room to spread and not fight with each other for water. This is why I've got mine in a pretty big clear plastic pot. I had a bunch of bulbs and I know how much they spread throughout the year. This is the first time I've actually done this and the results have been great. I used to keep him all crammed in a little pot and looking back he was set up to fail, the poor fella.
Now Oxalis don't like the soil to dry out fully like a Monstera or a Pothos would. The aim of the game is keeping the soil evenly moist but not too wet.
At this point in a video like this, I would normally bang on about how using a moisture meter is the best thing since sliced bread, but in this case I'm not sure I can. This is because of the bulbs in the soil. Because there are so many, it's going to be tricky to avoid stabbing them with your moisture meter and potentially killing a batch of leaves.
I'm sure they're more robust than that, but I've gone for the pick-up method.
It takes a little bit of getting to know your plant, but pick him up and feel how heavy he is, compared to when he was fully watered. If he's starting to feel quite light, especially at the bottom of the pot, then top him up.
You can prod around the surface of the soil with your finger, but this isn't the area we should be most concerned about. We need to know how things are going deeper in the pot.
But I'd err on the side of keeping things moist rather than dry and not worrying too much about overwatering. As long as he's not sat in saturated soil for months, he should be okay.
I'm sure you're after some sort of timeline, and I will give you one, but just know that this is based on my temperate climate, which may be very different to yours.
I'm watering mine roughly every 5 to 7 days. 5 days during hot and sunny weather and 7 days when it's gone rainy again. And you'll notice that I'm bottom watering. For me, this is the key to keeping all the soil evenly moist and all those bulbs happy. Top watering tends to be a bit patchy. I aim to go about a third of the way up the pot so I know all the bulbs will get a decent drink.
The absolute best thing you can do for your ox is to forget about him for 4 months of the year. Seriously, every year I stick him in a dark cupboard and don't even look at him, let alone give him a drink for 4 months at least. But why am I doing this?
It's all to do with challenge 3, stopping that tired look during winter that is oh so common with this plant. But won't doing this kill him off? No, and all will become clear in a sec, trust me.
So your ox is looking miserable in winter because of the much lower light and colder temps. It's obvious really, isn't it? A plant that craves the sun as much as this is going to miss it when it disappears for 4 months.
And outside, Ox has it sussed. he dies back above ground and goes into hibernation mode before popping up again when the light improves and it's a bit warmer. Now indoors, this won't happen by itself. The warm temps of your home kind of trick him into a false sense of security, and he keeps going through the winter, even though it's really not doing him any good. So we need to force him into dormancy.
Most guides on the internet recommend doing this every 3 or so years, but I think it's best doing it every single year. The bulbs get a chance to recharge over winter, and we'll get a much stronger plant in spring and summer.
Plus, this allows us to correct any mistakes we might have made during the summer. It's like we're getting pardoned for our sins.
So how do we go about forcing dormancy? Well, it's dead easy. Like I said, just stick him in a dark cupboard and ignore him. It really is that simple.
Definitely don't give him any water. He will look an absolute mess by spring, but it really doesn't matter. Bulb health is what matters most. When spring does roll in, discard the dead leaves, empty the contents of the pot and go hunting for bulbs. Pot them up into fresh soil in a decent sized pot, water thoroughly, pop him in the sun, and then in about 3 weeks new shoots should start popping up. So I guess we've not really solved problem 3, but at least we don't have to see him being miserable.
Well, good luck with your Oxalis. Check out this video next, and I'll see you there.